This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Woohoo! Finally, we're at the end of the local election specials.
And what a trip it's been, I have to say. You and Dommy done a fantastic job.
Well, anyway, that's our hook for today is, yay, we're at the end. Of course, voting's not finished yet. We have until midday on the 11th of October to get your votes in. And it is midday. It is 12:00 midday on the 10th. Anyway, I'm Dr Barb.
And I'm Trudi, and this is
the OI podcast.
Welcome. We haven't quite finished with elections.
We haven't quite. We thought we'd do sort of a roundup thing.
Finish, yeah.
We should say that. We're with the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences.
Did we not say that?
No, we didn't say that. The Otago branch of the Royal Society of Tauparangi, the Royal Society NZ Tauparangi. Yes,
it's
anyway.
Fantastic, yeah. And we look at issues around art, science and Mataranga Maori with interesting speakers, but you just got us two lovely hosts today.
Yeah, there's just us here today.
Yeah.
We've got all of those podcasts. They're all out there. You can just go and download them from the Otago Access Radio website, www.oar.org.nz. Super simple. There's all the ORC ones in alphabetical order. We interviewed 20 of the 23 candidates across Otago. So we did the ones from Modaki, of which there were 2, and the 10 from the Dunedin constituency. We had one that didn't reply, which was the ACT candidate from Molyneux, and we had 2 that we didn't interview from the Dunstan candidacy. Michael Laws said that he thought our audience was too small, so boo him. Boo, boo, boo. Anyway.
Come on, Michael, get on board.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Otago Access Radio.
It's Otago. I said to that. It's Otago Access Radio. I told him it was all on podcast. And yes. And one other one, which was Ben Farrell from the Queenstown area of the Dunstan constituency, and I thought on paper he looks like a really good candidate, so I was a bit sad not to get him, but we just couldn't get it synced. He was very keen to come on the show, give him that, but his schedule, because we did it right at the start of the campaigning thing, we were right in there, and unfortunately his schedule just couldn't make it work.
Sometimes the stars just don't align.
They just don't align, yes. So that's the
bonus
ORC.
Points for keenness.
Yeah, and we did get, over 93%, I think it was, of all of the ORC candidates. So there's great there. And there's changes to the ORC this year. There's 2 big changes to the ORC local elections voting. There's the...
it's STV, is it?
It's gone to STV. It's gone to STV from first past the post. So rather than ticking the 5 people or however many candidates you're voting for in your area...
You've got to rank the ones you rate.
You've got to rank the ones that you rate. Now, remember, that doesn't depend on how many candidates are in your constituency. So, for instance, in the Dunedin constituency, there are 5 candidates that will be elected to the ORC, but there are 10 candidates standing. You can rate and therefore rank just one or all 10 of them.
Exactly.
Or somewhere in between. As long as the numbers are in consecutive order, you can rank your top 5, your top 6, your top 7, whatever you like. And ranking someone below someone else will not affect how much your vote counts for the person at the top of your list or next getting in. Does that make sense, Trudy?
Sort of.
If you've got 2 people that you really, really want to get in, rank them 1 and 2.
Yeah.
If you've got another person that you sort of think would be okay if your number 1 and 2 don't get in, give that one a 3. Or if you think your numbers 1 and 2 will be so popular, they'll scream in and be oversubscribed. Therefore, they'll hit that quota really early.
50%? Is it 50 plus 1? 50% plus 1?
Yeah, for the mayor it is.
Right.
It depends on how many candidates are in It depends on how many candidates you're voting for total. Right. So the quota changes, and it changes as you go through a little bit because the number of people voting changes. It's a bit technical. I don't know if we need to go into that. It confuses people that. But the quota, so what it is that quota, it changes a little bit as you go through, because if it gets to the point where someone has voted number one and then they've not ranked anyone else, and that number one is either elected or that number one is eliminated, their person, whoever it is, and the computer doesn't know what to do with their vote anymore because they haven't put a number two, so they can't push it down. So that person effectively is one of the very few wasted votes in a system that does its very, very best not to waste anyone's vote, to use it to its full. So the way that you ensure that your vote is used to its absolute maximum is to go through the candidates and decide who you rate. If you think it's a great person, put them in order of who you rate first to however many until you stop rating them at all, and then rank them in that same order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all you need to do. You don't actually need to know the incredible intricacy of how it's actually working behind the scenes. I can tell you that if you want, but you don't actually need to know it to make your vote work the way you want it to.
Well, the last time I did it was 1998 for the Labour Party president elections here at Dunedin at the conference. And
the last DCC elections.
Well, no, but I actually was on the panel. We had to tally up the votes for
right.
STV.
You were actually doing it by hand?
Yeah, by hand. And
wow.
1988's a wee while ago, so I don't
The last time I did it by hand was in, I think, 2004 for the Brandon Village Residents Association in Durham County, the UK.
That would be a very contestable election, I'm sure.
And the people there thought I was crazy, but they gave it to me because I was from New Zealand. So unfortunately, that whole village now thinks that everyone in New Zealand is just as idiosyncratic as I am. Anyway. The important thing is it doesn't matter how many candidates there. It's not like in the past for the ORC when it was first past the post. It was really confusing because ORC was first past the post and DCC or wherever was STV, and then our general elections, of course, have got MMP, which is another form. So this year it's going to be much easier because ORC is STV, Single Transferable Vote, and the DCC elections are also single transferable vote for mayor, council at large, and for the community boards. So everything is single transferable vote. And it is just what it says on the packet, is a single vote, and it is transferable. And your numbering says to the computer, this is how I want you to transfer my vote. And that's as simple as that, single transferable vote. So you can rank as many people as you like.
No more than the candidates standing around, so it becomes invalid.
You have to put them in consecutive order. So if you miss out a number, it will stop when it gets to that blank because it doesn't know what to do. So it'll still count the numbers that are in consecutive order above that. That's fine, but it'll just stop then. It's pretty simple.
It is simple. So it does worry me if it stops because when they were counted by hand, there was always somebody who could review it because they could look at the intent of your vote, even if it's not clearly...
Yeah, no, there's no capacity for looking at the intent of votes in this. It's just deemed to be blank after that.
Right.
Which is fair enough, I think. If you can't count to 10, should you be voting past 10? You can only count, folks, you can only vote as far as many preferences as you can count. No, and I think a lot of people, they go a bit crazy and they want to rank everyone, myself included. And that's fine. You can do that. But really, it's going to stop just because there's not that many.
When they do... the transfer of the vote.
The transfer of the vote runs out, right?
Yeah.
And it runs out a lot sooner than you probably think it does.
Yeah, because
it's only a portion of your vote that's being transferred.
Yeah, and a lot of people might attract a lot of votes at the beginning. So,
it doesn't. And, that depends. You can't say exactly how many numbers you need to put down because, of course, that depends on how the candidates you are voting for and how soon they get either elected or eliminated. Because if you vote for the first 14 candidates to be eliminated, then all of your vote goes to your 15th preference.
Exactly. So it's not much point in having a sweepstake on this because the odds to get it right are extremely difficult to calculate.
And, you can vote for... What STV means, in essence, is that if you really, really like a candidate, but you're not sure if they're actually going to get enough votes for whatever reason. Maybe they're like just a particular issue candidate, or maybe they're just really unknown, right? They're a newcomer on the scene and they haven't got a huge number of people talking about them. So if you're just hesitant, you could still vote for them. You can still give them your number one vote and you can know that your vote's still going to count because you can give your first preference number one and then put a sure thing in at 2 or 3. Just like that. That's easy. That's easy. And we all know who,
we know who the sure things are? Sometimes
I don't know that we do know who the sure things are, but we do know who's being talked about more. And, of course, incumbents do have a bit of a leg up. And
I don't know about that. Are you a big fish in a small pond? But that could be just as disadvantageous.
I mean, I definitely think that this year that some of the incumbents will go. I think the ODT was quite scathing on quite a lot of them in their regular ranking.
But he quite often is, and
I know, but
his record's public, so there's not much you can hide as an incumbent.
It was a bit strange with the ORT ranking this year, I thought, because it was kind of this is for the DCC, not for the ORC, for the incumbent councillors, because it's sort of based on the reporters' kind of intuitive understanding of how well they thought they went over the 3 years, which is, of course, completely biased, but the author of it owns up to that. So what are you going to do? You've got your own opinion, So I think in a way that's fair enough. I think they started with a sort of 5 in the middle and then they went up and down. And I went through and I kind of agreed mostly with their ranking. I don't know about you, Trudi. Did you see that ranking?
Oh, yes. It was a conversation at the Swan Coffee on a Saturday morning.
Oh, right. Wow.
Where some councillors got quite... yes, we agree with that. But we weren't quite sure why that one ranked poorly as that, because they weren't actually as bad as...
I thought some of them were, but I also thought that it lacked the range that it could have employed. So it only sort of went, I think 4 was the lowest and 7.5 was the highest. So I would definitely have ranked some of them higher and some of them lower. And I also think that anyone who's getting a 5 or less should rethink what they're doing, because 5 is kind of, you turned up. You didn't do anything particularly bad. It's to me, that's the neutral line, right?
So you
didn't do anything bad. You didn't do anything great. Right? So, and then I sort of think, well, hey guys, be better. But I don't know. Do you want to go through what our thoughts were on that?
On what?
On the rankings of the people. I did think it was a bit churlish on David Penson Pope, because I thought he deserved a much higher ranking.
But he's not standing against, so why would you rank him? I can't.
Well, they were ranking them. Well, I thought the opposite. I thought, given that you're ranking the incumbents and he's clearly not standing again,
and he'd already announced it by then.
He had definitely announced it by then. I thought I would have given him a much higher one, and I thought there was a little bit of, he did a lot of work and he did as much as he was allowed, because he wasn't particularly used to his fullest ability, I would have thought, in the past.
Yeah, it's interesting. I suppose it depends on what the council wants to achieve and where your strengths lie.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. So if it was a scorecard, I don't think it's helpful to print it in the middle of an election. If it's a scorecard, then it should be...
When should it be printed?
Whenever they have the AGM or something like that.
Oh, every year.
Yeah, because otherwise you're scoring people aren't standing again, and the people who are standing don't get a score, so you don't even know how they perform. So
I guess what I sort of worked because I've got a history in academia, and there's a lot of marking in that. I started off by making my criteria and saying, what would I score people bonus points for? So mark them up from the 5 points. And what would I score people negative points for? So removing points from the 5 down. So I thought, well, if you've had a code of conduct upheld against you,
well, that would be...
I would give you a negative point. So I would be removing points for that. True. I would be removing points for people who had sued the DCC or cost the DCC money by their bad behaviour, basically, all the way through. I think if you can't... A code of conduct is a professional misconduct, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not just someone saying that. It's a QC has been brought out, Queen's Council, I guess they're called King's Councils now, has been brought in and has actually, evaluated the issue, whatever it is. It has been deemed to be, yes, this is worth evaluating. And then they've actually gone through that process of investigation. And I would say anyone who's had a code of conduct serious against them upheld seriously needs to rethink whether they are actually doing the job.
Or if you're in an employment situation, you'd be giving a lot of support by people and culture to improve your behaviour. And all during the election special, we've had lots of characters. People that we've interviewed about how elections work, about local government, like Sandy Graham, Gretchen from the Regional Council.
I know we had Amanda Verco from the Otago Regional Council, and Lisa Scott came in and talked about what the actual point of the ORC is, what the DCC actually does and how they work, what's the point of them, basically.
And the difference between governments and operations.
So that's another one of the criteria. If the incumbent doesn't understand the difference between governance and operations or gives a wrong answer, I would have demoted them.
Right.
Like I would have given them negative points for that. If they do a really good job of advocating for their community or a community
of interest.
A community that kind of otherwise wouldn't have a voice or wouldn't have as big a voice, not necessarily minorities, but someone who...
Of interest,
someone who, like a community, then I would give them bonus points for that because, if they've moved motions and they've contributed well to discussion, if they've worked with other people, if they've worked under difficult circumstances, if they've done really well at chairing committees or subcommittees, hearings, that sort of thing, then I would give them bonus points. I think that's only fair. You're doing the job, but you're doing the job really well. So I think give them a few bonus points for that. If they work well with other people, give them bonus points for that. If they're great at turning up within the community, going to things like, the citizenship things that happen every month where new citizens to New Zealand are welcomed into the Dunedin community, that sort of thing. Give them points for that. Turning up at different cultural events across the city.
School fairs,
all of those sort of things.
Because you are there to represent your local community.
They're there to represent.
So you've got to be seen in your local community.
Absolutely. If they're working with, groups that need help being raised up, then, give them extra bonus points for that. That sort of thing. I think, that's where you can see where they're doing. If they're well researched, if they've read the reading material, there's a lot of reading in being a councillor, and you can really tell if you sit through some of those council meetings, who has read the material and who hasn't. And I would give them bonus points for that.
I would have thought that would have been one of the core functions of the role is to turn up to your meeting, having read the material and being able to...
Having basically done your homework.
Having done your job.
Yeah. But some people do that better than others, I think.
Or is it they articulate that they've done it better than others? Well,
yes, maybe that's that they articulate. But then surely articulating the thing is actually part of your job as councillor as well. So you're doing it well. Yeah. I mean, everybody forgets every now and again something that wasn't a thing, but if you're continually asking questions that you've been given the answers to in the reading material, then I think you're wasting staff time.
Or that might be a tactic. If I keep doing the slight squeaky wheel, if I keep doing it, I keep doing it.
I think you're giving people credit where it's not due.
No,
I'm
not saying it's a good thing, because nothing irritates me more. Yeah.
I mean, it's really about whether you're adding to the discussion in a way that helps everything be achieved, right? A way that
achieves the goals.
Yeah. And I think that has to be it when you're on council, because you might get elected to represent, a part of the community, but once you're on council, you really have to be thinking of the whole community, and it's no good just being, one issue type people.
No, because there's a whole plan out there that dictates what the council needs to achieve over the next time period, and that's been out for consultation. Communities have had input into it, and so I think, part of your role is to see how does that community you might represent or have interest in get reflected in that process. But you can't say, well, we're going to do this, we're going to stop doing that, because you might not have the opportunity to do that, because it's already
you can push for something, you can advocate for things, I think.
Yeah.
But I think going on my point score for the incumbent councillors, I think people who work with each other is good. I think taking points off for just bad behaviour in general, but I think also not just working with each other as in the other councillors, and not just bad behaviour towards the other councillors, but also towards the council itself, the operations part of team. And I think part of that is understanding the difference between governance and operations, and remembering that only the CEO is actually employed by the councillors, and really making sure that you're holding that gap between governance and operations, and that you're treating the staff with respect all the way through, because in reality the staff have a limited ability to actually rebut anything that a councillor says. And I think that's particularly at the moment during this campaign season, where people are saying, all the staff are useless. That's not a thing that people should be saying, I'm sorry.
No. It's about, you can have all the best values in the world, but if you behave badly to employees, and it kind of just cuts through all your good intentions. Yeah.
And that really, for me, that really kind of puts a nail in the hammer of those people. Sorry, how everyone wants to say that.
A nail in their coffin.
Nail in their coffin. Yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, and also interfering too much in the operations teams. That's not your job.
No, exactly.
As a councillor, your job is to set the strategic vision, the long-term goals, the strategy, how you're going to address things. Yes. But not the detail of it.
No,
right?
That's not your role.
That's not your role.
Staff to do that. Yeah.
If you want to report on something, you ask the CEO, and the CEO says, "Okay, this is my team. This is and that." And I think that kind of comes back to that whole reviewing reviews of reviews, and you can't keep reviewing things until you get the answer that you want. That's a bit off, I think.
Also a bit of a waste of money, I think.
That's what I think that voters don't actually understand is, if you've got someone who's campaigning, and what really has annoyed me a lot this campaign, and there are a few things that have annoyed me this campaign season, but one thing in particular is people who are calling for rates reductions.
Oh, it's an interesting article.
Right, calling for rates reductions, calling for lowering of the debt, but at the same time saying they're going to do this, that and this. They're going to build this, we're going to build this, we're going to buy this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And those are all things that cost money. Reviewing documents, stopping things in the middle of something, asking for another review when it's been reviewed, the review's not going to change. That's costing staff time, and staff time is money, and it means that they're not able to do something else, so they're not progressing on something else. So all of that kind of stoppingness comes with not being able to work together and not being able to accept things once they've decided. And I think there's a lot of that goes on.
Yeah, I just wonder if it reflects the perhaps not immaturity, but the people standing perhaps don't understand what the role really is and what you can,
I did get that sense because, of course, that was one of the questions. It was a second long form question that we asked, which is there for all the candidates. What is your understanding of the difference between governance and operations, and how would you ensure that this is transparent and that you're accessible, etc.?
We also spoke about rates caps and
but it was interesting that governance and operations, because a lot of people didn't understand the difference, and a couple of the incumbent councillors clearly didn't understand the difference. So that was a bit worrying, disappointing, I would say. Disappointing. That's a good word for it, because if you've been in the job for 3 years, and I think the ODT there in their section, they were very lenient. If someone's been in the role for 3 years and they don't understand what the role is yet, they would not still be there in the private sector. I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. You might get a couple of weeks of
pull your socks up,
induction or whatever, but by and large, if you're being paid a full-time salary, which these people are, I would have thought that, basically, don't give them a second term. You don't have to give the incumbents a second term just because they're there. And what I really, really, really dislike is name recognition voting. Do not vote for people just because you know their name. Only rank the people that you rate.
Hold on. When I stood in 1987, somebody voted for me because I had a nice deli name.
Name?
As in from the Dalmatian coast. What's there?
That's all right.
So that's hardly name recognition, but
I don't know. I mean, you can't stop people voting for whoever they want for whatever reason they want. But personally, I would like it if everybody just knew something about the candidates that they're voting for, because it's the foundation of democracy, Trudi. It really is. Like, otherwise,
she's used my name. I'm obviously in trouble. I feel like I talked to my mother. But interesting, in the conversation in the tea room, some of the people you thought, or not only Stephen Brown, who've asked me who's so and so, and I've said you don't know. I was quite surprised how not as well known some people may think that they are. So it comes back to that, whether you're a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond. Sometimes when a small fish has some advantages. But if we're going to rank the existing councillors, what kind of scorecard should we present to people coming in? Like how would
that's the tricky thing. And that is the tricky thing, because you know what you get with the incumbents and you don't with newcomers. And I would say that for me, I would say every election, go through the newcomers, and it's really obvious who's far right or far left, or really keen on cycling or really keen on reducing debt. It's actually really clear from those interviews and from the variety of other things that are out there. I would say go beyond the booklet. The booklet's a starting point. And the DCC put out those little videos this time. So there's a lot of candidates out there. I get that, and I get that it's quite a lot of time for people. But what I would say is go to the booklet, which everybody will have now in the post, or go to those little videos and the videos are only like 3 minutes and they're all there. Sit down and just watch them all. And while you're doing it, cross out the ones that you definitely don't want to vote for. You'll get rid of half of the people, whoever you are and whoever you want to vote for. You'll probably get rid of the half of the people just doing that. And then once you've narrowed it down to a smaller number of candidates, then go through the podcasts, go through the individual podcasts and say, okay, I really like this person. The incumbents are easy because there's a bit of information in the ODT as well, but go through them. And what I think is, in my perfect council, I would have a diversity of council. Like if I wasn't ranking them in my ranking, I'd say, okay, well, actually there's quite a few students that are standing, or young people, not necessarily students. Some of them were really good.
So like a dream team.
So I put together a dream team, I think. There's a couple of them that really knew their stuff. And, they're young. They're not 16, though. They're 25, 26, that sort of age. They've got energy. They're used to reading lots of material because they're at university. They're actually got heaps of energy. And I think, Dunedin has a fifth of our population pretty much is students. That's craziness.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry because if we're too narrow in what we think, a good counsellor should be, well read, understand the difference between governance and
honestly, those students gave good answers to most of those things.
If that's what we're going to limit how we vote for them, we're going to end up with a very grey, for want of a different word, council. So that's why I kind of like the idea of voting for, looking at and coming up for Dream Team that is a bit more diverse. Because if you're looking for something that operates within what we'd call good democracy or whatever, how do we get people in there so we do get a diversity across? They can do those functions, but they might.
I'm just going to give you a list of all the young sort of studenty type people that were there. I would say there's Jet Grushinsky. There is Lily Waring.
Oh, yeah.
There's Rose Finney. Both of those two were standing for the Greens. There's the two that are standing for Mayor only, Finn Nisbet and the vampire guy.
Oh, yeah.
Ruth Finn, I can't say his last name, Elmarak, something like that. His actual name is Rose Willis. And I feel like... Lachlan Ackers.
Oh, yeah.
Akers?
That's not Bill... Oh, no.
No, that's Acklin.
Oh,
he's definitely not a student.
No, he's not related to.
That's quite a few, right, of the younger folk. Flynn Nisbet or Nesvit, Zenith Rose Willis is the vampire's actual name, but I think both are on the book, so that's right. And of course, those two are just standing for mayor. But honestly, you can say whatever you like, but Finn is the silly hat party. And Zenith Rose Willis is the radical faction party, but clearly not standing for council, just standing for mayor. But honestly, a large proportion of Ruth Finn, the vampire's answers, were really well articulated and really well thought out. And
yeah, I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that if you look at them at face value, you think, well, they're wasting my time, why are they standing? Yeah. But if you look at people at face value, you're just going to end up with a bunch of grey men in suits, which is what really worries me, that you do need to take the time and look at who's standing and come up with a dream team that
and then
captures the whole of the city.
And what's really cool about STV is we can all put our dream teams in.
Yes, yeah.
Like we can all, throw a bit for a dream team person. I don't know. That's what I would do. And that, there's quite a few of them that are standing for both council and community board. And I think most of the ones that are standing for council and community board, I really hope that if they don't get on council, they get on those community boards, because I think they would be great there and just get that little bit more experience and then have another crack at council. Their first time standing, and they happen to be in an area that has a community board and a council.
So, because I think, they're having a buck each way, but
some of them are third. Some of them have stood on community board and they're sort of standing for community board and council as a sort of, I still want to contribute to the community, but I'm going to throw my hat in the ring for council.
See, it's interesting because I think you can't make up your mind where you want to be.
No, I think it kind of makes sense because it's hard to move from community board to council because it's just a different scale of people knowing who you are and what you stand for and that sort of thing. So,
see, I think I'd look at them and think,
really,
yeah. I think you're having a buck each way. If I fail a one, I can fall back on the other. Yeah,
maybe, yeah. But then you lose good candidates from the community board because they didn't quite make it into council.
Well, they should have just stood for the community board then. But if they want to, like this is your own decision about career progressions, like do you stay where you are in the organisation or do you take a risk and go somewhere else? So you have to decide
You're a hard line. I get more annoyed at the people who stand for mayor but clearly don't want to be mayor. And here I'm specifically not talking about the silly hat party or the vampire candidate, because I think that's satirical candidates are a valid part of any campaign, and I full-heartedly support them standing. And I think they raise really good issues and really good discussion points. So I'm very keen on them standing. What I don't like is people who clearly are not going to be mayor, standing for mayor and inflating the number of candidates that there are for mayor. And if they actually got in for mayor, they would not know how to do the job. And they must know that themselves. And if they don't...
if they must do that, why would they be standing?
Well, I think a lot of people think that they get more airtime because they're standing for mayor.
So they just do councillor.
Yeah, so it's mayor and council. And they just very cynically stand for mayor as well as council. And I think that's
the same thing, make up your mind where do you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even that. It's more than make up your mind, I think, with the mayor, because it's just unrealistic. And I find it deeply troubling that either they have no self-awareness, that they don't realise that...
This is, of course, in Barbara's humble opinion. They have no self-awareness.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It's interesting because, I think to run for office, you have to have a little bit of ego because you won't survive.
You won't survive otherwise. Yeah,
but then I think sometimes
there's far too much ego.
Yeah.
But I think mayor. It is a big job, and I think that a lot of people underestimate how big it is and what the job actually entails. And it was interesting talking to Sandy Graham, the CEO, about what the actual role of mayor is and what it entails and how big a job it is. And I think for me personally, I won't give my number one preference to someone who hasn't even been on council.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
And
even if they haven't been on council, at least they could have gone to, because you can see in the minutes, not always, but if they've participated in council affairs or been made submissions or something, if I think they need to interact with the council in one way or another.
Yeah, I think
your step having to be on council is perhaps a step a wee bit too far.
I think you want to be the chief before you've been the Indian.
But you can be an Indian if actually
I think that's probably not PC anymore. Oh my God, I can't even believe I said that on radio. Oh dear, I'm sorry. That's my childhood coming back to haunt me. Oh my goodness.
So you shouldn't be the organ grinder until you've been the monkey.
Yeah, I think so. I think 3 years on council first and figure out what the role is. And then if you get elected, then run for mayor. Because I really think that you can't be the chairman or the chairperson or the president of a society without having been on the committee beforehand.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you put it in those terms, it's just like you need to figure out how things work.
Well, you might have had experience in a similar type of organisation somewhere else.
Yeah, I can go that. I can almost expand that far, but. Being the CEO of a business, I think we've seen with our current political, national and international state of affairs that does not work. A CEO of a business,
it could be an NGO. But
CEO is different. It's different to being the mayor. It's not the same role. The DCC has a CEO, as does the ORC. It's a different role.
Oh, yeah. But I'm thinking if you've been in an organisation that has the same skills that a mayor needs, they're transferable skills to one organisation. Oh, I think there are. I think that's the whole challenge with a whole lot of stuff in New Zealand is that we don't recognise transferable skills enough.
I don't. What are the transferable skills of a mayor? What other job would they have been in?
Oh, if you're a negotiator, hostage negotiation, I think that would be, really useful. If you've been the chair of a large committee in an organisation which has got quite a diverse range of people in it that are used to robust debate, then I think that's an equivalent. Yeah.
If you've been in national politics.
Well, no, because I think that's perhaps. Well,
I don't know, because you know how meeting structures work, and you know how the difference between governance and
Exactly.
operations work.
For anybody who's in a kind of chair role in any organisation, there is always that difference between governance and operations.
I guess
Just about
sometimes it's
scale.
more. Yeah, and sometimes it's more and sometimes it's less.
Yeah, depends how big of it is. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't be so strict then. Still.
But I'm interested in STV and then the postal voting.
Yeah, we should actually get down to some nuts and bolts because we've only got 15 minutes left.
Oh, crikey.
I know, it's
didn't
crazy.
think we were going to fill in the time.
It's crazy.
I knew once we started talking.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, so let's go quickly. The postal vote. If you have not received your voting papers in the post already, they may not be coming. Go online, www.vote.nz. A website will come up. It's the registration website. Go in and say you want to update your details. Check the address and your name and everything is right. If the address is wrong, that means your papers are not being delivered to you. Correct them on there. You're still registered. You're still enrolled. It's all good. And then what you need to do is go to the Plaza building at the DCC and ask for a special vote. Tell them that you're already registered, that your register's there. They can put that number on. It goes straight through. It doesn't mean that you have to, it's slightly different if you have to enroll as well, right? So the first case is there's just a mistake. For some reason, your registration papers, your voting papers have not arrived in your mailbox. Update your registration on that vote.nz page. Make sure it's correct. If it's not correct, you're not going to get your papers in time to vote. You have to go to the plaza at the DCC and get those special voting papers. You can fill them out there and pop them in the box straight away. So if you've already sorted out who you're going to vote for, take your little crib notes along and fill in the form there.
Can you enroll there as well? Because
yes.
not everybody
so you
can
enroll.
Online.
So
Yeah.
you can enroll at the plaza, the DCC. So regardless of whether so maybe you've only just turned 18 today. So, of course, you haven't enrolled. Of course, you haven't registered yet because you've only just turned 18. That's fine. If you turn 18 on the 10th of October this year, you can still vote in this year's election, right? So right up until midnight of October the 10th, the day before the end of the elections, you can enroll. Now, you can enroll either online, just go to that registration page, vote.nz, and you can just enrol in there, or you can just go down to the DCC, the Plaza building there, and get a special paper and enrol there. Now, you do not need ID if you go in person to the Plaza DCC there. You just go along and you sign a declaration that says, I am who I am. It doesn't say I am who I am. If I was doing it, it would say I'm Dr. Barbara Jane Anderson of this address, this phone number, whatever. And I sign it to declare that I am in fact telling the truth. And that's the same with your special vote. You don't need ID. You just sign a declaration to say, yes, I am this person. And of course that goes away and gets checked that you haven't done 3,000 of them in different places. But that's not going to happen. It's local elections, people. It's all fine.
Fine.
So if you register online, you do need a real ID type thing or maybe a driver's license or something to do the online registration because you're not there in person to sign the declaration. That's the difference. Whereas if you go to the plaza, you're there in person. You're just signing it to say, I'm me. Right?
I've been enrolled for decades, so I've got no idea.
I know. Well, I've checked all these things. I've gone right to the electoral officer and I've made a real pain of myself to get the exact detail on it. Anyway,
so that's why that job's been advertised.
Yeah. Anyway, so, so it's really easy. Special voting. So if there's anything wrong, if you have not got your papers yet, go to the plaza. Don't leave it to the last moment. Please go as soon as you possibly can. Because if everyone leaves it to the last moment, there aren't enough last moments for everybody to vote. Does that make sense? Because after midday on the 11th, no more votes can be received. Okay, so you just cannot. After 12 noon on the 11th, no more votes can be received. So please go as soon as possible.
And I just wonder if that's part of the challenge of postal voting now, because where does our mail go to? It goes from here to Christchurch and back again. So you really want to post it at least a week before to make sure it gets in on
Yes,
time.
you do. No, and that is absolutely true. So you can post them because it's a postal vote, but what you really want to be doing is putting them in those orange buckets. And there are lots of orange buckets all around town. They're at supermarkets, they're at lots of different places, and they will gradually get moved to more central places during the voting campaign. So on the last day, they will really just be at the DCC
Right.
there.
So they're like ballot boxes.
They're like ballot boxes,
Yeah,
but you
because
fill
I
out
have
your
a real challenge with postal voting. I mean,
Yeah, so
I
it's-
understand it, but I don't think it achieves the goal of what it was intended to do.
possibly.
To increase the voter
because it
turnout.
took us I think because it took us so long to get the postal voting that everything went online. So post actually has gone down, and so the regularity of the New Zealand Post and all of those
no,
things.
I just think postal voting in general hasn't achieved its objective
Yeah,
of
maybe.
increasing the turnout.
Well,
like
yeah.
if it's less than 50% last time,
It was only just less than 50% in Dunedin.
still.
I know
that's
it's ridiculous.
like
What it means is that more people didn't vote
yeah.
than voted for anyone.
One,
So, you know,
yeah.
if all of those people had voted for one candidate, that candidate would have absolutely stormed in for every position.
I just sort of a tactic, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So just you can fill in your form at home and then put it in its envelope and then just take it to one. And they're in supermarkets and libraries and, you know, the obvious places. And there's a list of them on the DCC website. If you
It's probably in your pack as well.
Oh, it's probably in
like
the pack.
mine's
I haven't
on the
actually looked
kitchen
at the pack
table.
yet.
I haven't even opened mine.
I haven't
so-
actually looked at the pack. I know who I'm voting for, but I haven't actually looked at the pack yet.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, you're doing better
Anyway,
than me.
so that's the postal votes and the special votes. So the main thing is to vote. And, you know, the good thing about taking your vote and putting it in your envelope and putting it in that orange bucket is you can grab 3 or 4 people and you can all go and do it together and make a morning tea of it or an afternoon tea or a day of it or whatever you want. Make it a thing.
Make it an event. And I
Make it
think
an
that's
event.
what's missing
And I think
with postal.
that's what you like about the
Yeah.
polling, and me too. Like
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
like on general elections. I always go on election day because I like to go on election
day.
I like to feel like I've got the full amount of facts in front of me, so I leave it till the last day and then go along.
But it's kind of a
But don't do
statement
that.
on election day. Yeah,
Don't do that for this one. Just go in and
Yeah.
vote now. Put your vote in, and then you've got it done. And like the worst thing is realising the day after the election that you filled in the voting papers but you never handed it in. Don't be that person.
Oh, it never happens in our house, I tell you.
Don't be that person. Okay, so the next thing is... Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. You
No,
finished
what were
with
you
that?
gonna say?
I was just going to say the next thing is STV. I've heard lots of chatter about STV. It is super simple. You do not need to understand all the behind-the-scenes calculations in order to work the system and make it do exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You
It just
just...
doesn't work.
It's so... I mean, you can go through all the rabbit holes and understanding all those things if you want to. And if you're interested, then by all means, understand as much as you really want. And there's lots of detail everywhere. But absolutely, all you need to do is decide who you rate and rank those people in the order that you rate them. So put a 1 next to your number 1 preference, the person that you would most like to see be mayor or in council or on the ORC or in the community board. Give them a 1. If that person is already elected with a surplus of votes, and some of their votes have to get redistributed or portions of their votes have to get redistributed, who would you second most like that to go to? Put that person as number 2. Or vice versa, if that number 1 person of yours, for whatever reason, is not successful and gets eliminated, then who would you like your vote to go to next? That's the way it works. So it's just shifting. It's transferring your vote. You still only get 1 vote, but it transfers it to the next person on your list.
So somebody on your list gets your vote.
So somebody on your list gets your vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of works a little bit in proportions of your vote because that's how it works. Because
So this is a statistician
yes,
starting to
but
come out.
you don't
but-
need to worry about all of those fractions and things. Just rank your person or persons in order. And it's really important for things like mayor because it allows you to say, look, you know, this person, a lot of people don't know them. I went along to a forum and I thought they spoke really well and I totally agreed with their vision for everything. I'm going to give them my number one. And, hand on heart, I don't really believe that they're going to get in, but I'm going to give them my number one.
Because it's my vote, so that's what I want to choose.
Yeah, I'm going to give them my one.
Yeah.
But if you do that and you want your vote not to be wasted at all, and particularly if there's someone on that list of mayoral candidates or councillors who you really, really don't want to get in, then vote for the other people as well, because it's your preference. And adding someone to your list of preferences will not affect how much your vote helps the people above them. That's the important thing.
I think also there's another group of people, just moving on a wee bit because we've spoken about STV quite a bit, that are kind of really important to democracy in elections that don't get a lot of airtime, and they're the people who deliver leaflets. They're the people who run out and fix up the billboards. They're the people who make cups of teas for candidates. They're the people, probably their partners or whatever description, that, they forego seeing them during the election period because they're at meetings or they host meetings in their own place. So I think that they're a really key, important group in democracy that we often don't acknowledge.
Yeah, no, I think that's true.
Not everybody pays to have their leaflets delivered or the hoardings put up or any of that kind of stuff.
Most candidates, I think that probably is most candidates. Okay,
well,
it's just a probably, but I think, in my humble opinion, that most candidates are just relying on friends, family, supporters, volunteers.
I thought you were going to say most candidates pay. But
God, I don't know anyone who's paid for their leaflets to be developed.
No.
I don't know what circles you move in.
Well, I know. It's been a while.
So I think, especially in local elections.
Yeah. It's a community effort.
Yeah, it really is. Generally, leaflets are the people themselves or their family, friends, supporters, whatever, delivering the leaflets and
dog walkers.
And we asked about spending caps. I think the spending caps are way too high. I was amazed how few people said that in the podcast, because $55,000 is a heck of a lot of money to be spending on a local election campaign. I don't think they need anything near that. And
it's also within certain time frames, so you can spend more than that. But
absolutely. If you're spending outside the campaign time, or if you're joining together teams or groups or mayor and council, it's craziness. It's all craziness. Anyway, I think it should be kept to about $2,000.
Well, it used to be $30,000. I think that's inflation for you.
Well, I think that's far too much. Compare it to someone's salary, like $54,000. That is a lot of money.
It is.
That is a lot of money to be spending on one campaign.
But if you're buying billboards, air advertising, leaflets,
I think.
It depends on how you campaign. Not everybody's social media savvy.
And some people say, well, you should be allowed to spend as much as you like. And I came up with a solution to this. I came up with a solution with this.
Oh.
I think people should be allowed to spend as much as they like, but all the money that they spend should go into a single pot, like a kitty, like in a flat. And then that money should then get divvied out equally amongst all the candidates. So if you want to spend $55,000 and there's 55 candidates, you're going to put in $55,000 and you're going to get $1,000 back, and everyone's going to get $1,000 back.
Well, nobody's going to do that.
Well, I think that's fair enough, because then it's like lifting everybody up at the same amount, and you can have more money spent, but you have to put in more.
More, yeah.
Anyway, Trudi doesn't think that's going to work.
No,
I think it's a fantastic idea.
So we are in a bit of an election fever season because local bodies, but also the OUSA are having elections at the moment as well.
Are they?
Yes, so that's a wee bit contestable.
That is contestable. And of course, Bird of the Year. Oh my gosh, Bird of the Year is happening.
Bird of the Year would fail my review of what are the key elements
got a minute and a half.
And fair elections. But anyway, besides that, we're not going to go into that, but there are 70 73 birds you can vote for, and you get 5 votes each. They don't tell me whether it's STV. They don't tell me how they qualified. They don't tell me how to enrol.
I think it is STV though, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm being facetious slightly.
I think it is STV. I don't know. But it's far too many candidates. There's more candidates than there are for council, for goodness sake.
So
and there are, like,
73
Dunedin
birds.
won over the whole of the Motu this election. We have the most candidates for mayor and the most candidates for council.
Cool.
If that's winning, we did it.
And the other thing today is that it's the suffrage day.
It's suffrage
in
day.
1893 we passed the vote, passed the
1893.
Electoral Act, and it's also the 50th anniversary of Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori. So, wow, it's a lot happening.
It is a lot happening this week. Yeah, no, it's a lot happening. So everyone out there in your purple, that's the suffragette colour. For those who don't know it, that's the suffragette colour. Sorry, I thought
it was white rose, but white rose and purple and green.
I thought it was just purple.
No,
I think the white rose is a different thing. Isn't that to do with the Tudors? I think that's the War of the Roses, that white rose. I think you've gone off track there, Trudy.
They had a purple and green ribbon on a white rose or something. But never mind, somebody will correct us. But anyway.
We're all sorted. That's us.
Indeed.
That's the election special over. Go out and vote. Check out those podcasts. You've still got time.
And rank who you rate.
Yes.
Rate who
if
you
rank them, rate them. Right, that's us from us. Ka kite.
Mati wa.
The Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences presents the Local Election 2025 special. Our aim is to demystify the voting process, encourage participation in local democracy. We present an apolitical political show, providing unbiased information, context and background on a range of issues. A refresher course on how to register, how to stand for election or nominate somebody else, how STV works and how to make sure your vote represents your values. Brought to you by the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences, the Otago branch of the Royal Society NZ Te Aparangi. Available on podcasts wherever you listen and from the Otago Access website, oar.org.nz. You can support this local election special by becoming a member of the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences, the Otago branch of the Royal Society Te Aparangi.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.